Okay, my goal in this video is not to cry. My name is Cassie with All Things Potter, and today I just kind of wanted to share with you guys how Harry Potter saved my life. Now, just to give some backstory, I was into Harry Potter at a very young age, so I know you Potter fans out there who read the books first. You are the diehard, the tried and true. I was not one of those people, because by the time Harry Potter came out, it was like, I think in 2001. So I was 3 years old. So I grew up seeing the movies first, and I can't really remember a time where I didn't know Harry Potter, didn't watch Harry Potter, because my parents had just bought one of the movies. They thought it'd be cute for us growing up, and I'm glad they did, because that's what my brother and I grew up on. So we were die-hard for the movies, and they were always playing in the background. We memorized so many words, as you know, a lot of you guys can probably relate. And at Christmas, I remember one year I got a time turner and I was so excited, and my brother, he got a Nimbus 2000, and I had no idea how our parents or Santa swung that, but they managed to, and we were so excited. My brother had wands, I was so jealous, and we just really loved Harry Potter. Hey you guys, I'm so sorry I ended up losing some footage. So this is Cassie from the future, and I just wanted to fill in the gap there. So what ended up happening was my household was kind of dysfunctional. It became very, very toxic. So I ended up moving in with my dad for a couple years, and not speaking to my mom for a while. And when I did that, I was about 15. My dad unexpectedly passed away. So I had to move in with my pastors, and I was very grateful for that. But my pastors had like very strong beliefs when it came to Harry Potter movies. And so they told me, because I was like a new Christian at this time, they told me that watching Harry Potter would kind of be like dishonoring to God. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to dishonor God. I ended up giving up the Harry Potter movies, and it was very sad for me because I love them so much. And at this point now, I'll just let myself continue the story. Sorry. And so for about 6 years, 6 to 8 years after, I stopped watching Harry Potter. And then when I was in university, you know, you're doing your whole self-exploration thing. And for a lot of people, that's like, oh my gosh, like I slept around, or oh my gosh, I tried drugs for the first time, or, you know, I did this really rebellious thing. And for me, my really rebellious thing was like, yeah, I started watching Harry Potter again. And I was so lame. But anyway, I ended up meeting my husband, and when we got married, I showed him Harry Potter, because he had never seen it either. And he really liked it. Eventually I got pregnant, had my daughter Kendall. When I went to the hospital to deliver Kendall, you know, you pack your baby bag that has all the essentials in it. So I packed, you know, the diapers, the wipes, the cream, the baby outfits, and all that stuff. But also I made sure I packed every Harry Potter movie. I packed our portable DVD player so I could watch them, and literally at the hospital, I had just fresh out of labor. I was holding my newborn baby and staying up all night with her, watching Harry Potter the entire time. And the nurses would come in and they'd be like, oh my gosh, I love this movie. So my Harry Potter obsession was back into full force, and I was so happy. But then a couple months later, and this is where the story like starts to get a little like more traumatic, so if you want to skip through, you definitely can. But we were on the highway traveling with Kendall in the back seat of this big van after we had just made a Costco trip. So we had all of these big bulky things in the back, and like huge jars of pickles, and like ridiculous, you know how Costco is, big bulky things. And then Daniel was driving and I was in the passenger seat, and it was raining on the highway, and there was randomly an animal in the middle of the highway. And so Daniel went to go change lanes, but because of the rain, as he was changing lanes, and then the animal like hit our tire, so all at the same time, like the tire came off the van, and then I think we must have hydroplaned, like I have no idea what happened, but we ended up flipping over in the van into a ditch and rolled over like 5 or 6 times and landed upside down. And at first we didn't hear Kendall, so we were really terrified. And I was crawling out of the van. Daniel seemed to get out like quickly, so I just followed how he got out. He ended up getting Kendall out of the van. I don't even know how. He still doesn't know how, but it was like, and then she started crying, so we knew she was okay, but she had injuries all over her face. We ran up out of the ditch. We couldn't really see anything because it was pitch black out, and waved down people on the highway. This family was nice enough to stop by, and they called the ambulance for us, and they helped. I had like an injury on my knee, so it was gashed open, and they had a compress on it. The man and the wife were holding Kendall, and I had no idea what was going to happen with her. And Daniel actually had the least amount of injuries, which he ended up feeling extremely guilty for, because he felt like he was responsible for everything that happened. But it's weird because before all of this happened, I would journal a lot, and I was writing down my prayers, and I was, for some reason, always praying, like, if for some reason, if there's an accident, I pray that you would protect us and keep our family safe and just protect us on the road and all this stuff. And people were praying for us on our way back home when we had taken the highway. And I honestly feel like the only reason that we got out of that alive is because God answered our prayers. And all of these people in the hospital were telling us there's no reason why we should be alive, all of us. Because of the way that the car looked, it was completely totaled. And it was very, very traumatic for us. Even though we all ended up being okay, mentally we were anything but okay. We ended up moving back in with Daniel's parents because there were more job opportunities up there. And so we crashed with them, had no car, we were terrified. For me, any slight noise, I would just burst into tears, have flashbacks. I still to this day can't sit in a passenger side of the vehicle while we're on the highway. I just can't. I have to be the one driving. And I was so afraid, like, if the wind blew outside, I was afraid that a tree was going to fall down on Kendall. I was like, I couldn't leave the parking lot in a car. I could only stay in the parking lot. I would burst into tears. One time a bunch of plates fell on the floor, and the sound just reminded me of, like, it was breaking glass, right? So it just reminded me of the car, and I just felt so trapped in my thoughts. I couldn't even shower properly because when I was in the shower, it was on the second floor, so I was afraid I was going to fall through. And it was the same if I was in the kitchen, because the kitchen was right underneath the bathroom, and I was afraid if I was in the kitchen, the shower was going to fall through on me. Like, I just had these weird, every bump on me I thought was like cancer. I had all this anxiety every time I was walking around. I felt like I couldn't leave the house. I wouldn't text people. I was in a very, very dark place. I didn't want to socialize. I would get irritable very quickly, and it was really hard for me. And that Christmas, it was 2 years, not 2 years, it was 2 months after the accident almost. And Daniel that Christmas got me the Harry Potter book series. It was actually this one right here. And I was just so excited because I always wanted to read the books. And so I used it as my escape when I was up in the bedroom, because I was still on mat leave. And so I didn't have a job. I was home with Kendall, and Daniel was at work, and I was just trapped in my thoughts all day. And so I started reading Harry Potter. For me, going into Harry Potter, I realized so many things I didn't realize about it when I watched the movies, and how it dealt with death and how Voldemort's biggest fear was basically death. And for me, that was my biggest fear at the time. And so when I was reading through the books, I took a lot of comfort in this, and I found a lot of bravery and strength. And as Harry like lost Sirius and lost his parents and had to literally walk in, like when you go into Deathly Hallows and he has to face death himself, I really learned a lot from that. It was something that was very healing for me. It was the whole world, right, is just an escape from our own. Knowing that, feeling like there's something else inside this world that you can't see, just a magical kind of escape from our own reality. It was very therapeutic for me. And I learned a lot about not wanting to be like Voldemort and fear death and let that take over my whole life, and how dark you can become when that's your motive. So these books, all of these things, they were a major part of my healing during this time where my anxiety was so heavy and I didn't know what to do, and I felt like nobody understood me, and I felt like I was a prisoner of my own mind. And I could totally relate to the Dementors and how it just felt like the happiness is just like sucked out of your soul. And as a Muggle, right, you can't see the Dementors, but you can feel their effect. And the way J.K. Rowling just made these real life problems and struggles come into such a magical and beautiful illustrative story was really, really good for me. I didn't realize the effect it would have on me, and so now afterwards I'm so thankful for those books, and I really believe that they did save my life. I don't know how I would be now, or if I would be here now, if I didn't have that escape and that almost like a friend pulling you through and showing you how it's okay to have those feelings. But if you stay in that, the danger that can come, and also the joy that comes in life, and that this life might be temporary, but there's a lot more to this life than, holding on to it. So anyway, you guys, thank you for listening to this story. I would love to hear how you guys really got invested in Harry Potter, how you guys started, whether you started with the books or you started with the movies. I would love to hear how Harry Potter changed your life. Anyway, comment down below and subscribe if you want to stick along for the journey, and we can just talk about all things Potter. Thanks.